Alright, well guys, our last top plate on this side is on. Our logs are unloaded from our trip to the woods. But I've got this whole shithole right here that we've got to get picked up. So, here's the plan. I want to get this picked up. As I start cutting more off the mill, I want to move all my 8x8s over here because they're a lot easier to handle. I want all my 2x8s over here because they're also easier to handle. I've got to cut more flooring if you were wondering why I don't have it all decked. We're going to be taking that off of the logs as we go. These boards, of course, I've got to get to 1x10s, get those up there. So a lot going on tonight. A lot of small stuff adding up, but it all adds to the progress of the project. So, and also, I don't respond to, watch my language here. I don't respond to turd comments very often, but I had one tonight a few minutes ago. It asked me if I could be any more boring. And to you there, douche snorkel, I certainly can. But,
I love this.
But, so maybe I'll just slow it down a little bit. You know, maybe I'll start talking real slow and we'll go on. So, anyway, to you guy who is finding this boring, good for you, man. Everybody's got a right to their opinion. So, we're going to get to work and I'll catch you on the other side. Alright, well guys, our last top plate on this side is on. Our logs are unloaded from our trip to the woods. But I've got this whole shithole right here that we've got to get picked up. So, here's the plan. I want to get this picked up. As I start cutting more off the mill, I want to move all my 8x8s over here because they're a lot easier to handle. I want all my 2x8s over here because they're also easier to handle. I've got to cut more flooring if you were wondering why I don't have it all decked. We're going to be taking that off of the logs as we go. These boards, of course, I've got to get to 1x10s, get those up there. So a lot going on tonight. A lot of small stuff adding up, but it all adds to the progress of the project. So, and also, I don't respond to, watch my language here. I don't respond to turd comments very often, but I had one tonight a few minutes ago. It asked me if I could be any more boring. And to you there, douche snorkel, I certainly can. But,
I love this.
But, that is
Are
it,
you
kid.
doing that's it from Easter time again when you were little?
I know.
Well, 'cause I heard
What
you
did you
say
just
that
step on?
this thing.
You could always pick it up instead of stepping on it.
The screw thing.
My entourage out here tonight. Now this doesn't have to be super fussy, guys. You just want a spot that you can hold that pig stock in.
You're gonna be gone for a while.
This is the last piece that I got.
I know.
But no, I didn't cut for a while actually. Well, I'm gonna go in with this wood. I'll be back out for a couple of loads. But
I'm so close. Look.
Boring. Guy thought I was boring. I hope he stubs his toe tonight. That's what I hope. I can be boring, but I can also be evil-minded. Give him boring. Whole lot of ugly there, isn't there, folks? Okay, so method one, making these by hand. After cheating a little bit. Okay, so this is how you guys can hand rive them if you do not have a shaving horse. Pay attention to where your grain is. And you can just go, and it's a little slower, but it does work. And all I do when I make my pegs, I just want to make an octagon. I was trying something different with these, to where I kind of ovaled these a little bit, thinking that they would grip better. I tried a few of them, and I tell you what, they worked really, really well. Now this is kind of the slow way, the slow method of doing this. See a little bit of grain run out right there. But that's more,
Is that just to hold it in?
that's just to hold it in. You going in, bud?
I'm not.
So all I'm going to do when I go to put the point, nothing real scientific. So I got a peg right there.
Daddy, my question is, why do you absolutely need the point?
And so when you drive it through, yeah, that'll go through. That's a little tight. I can work on that one a little more, but it's, you guys get the idea what you can do with it. Alright, so we're going to try out the, I'm going to do this on the shaving horse now. Okay. So it's pretty easy to use. You got to be careful when you're pulling the draw knife towards yourself. And if you've got it sharpened right, it's going to be, should be pretty damn sharp. So I don't have a lot of, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on this, just enough to hold it in place. I like to cut with the bevel down. That way, if I go to cut with the bevel up, it bites in, it dives into the piece, and it takes way too much off. But all I want to do, you don't have to go real hard, and you don't have to try to take off He-Man shavings. You just knock the corners down. That's all you're looking to do. And remember, you don't have to pull this really hard. I mean, I'm just going to use my thumbs to guide it, and I'll put my pointer fingers to pull it. But you see what? Barely pulling on it. Now, something else to keep in mind when you're using a shaving horse and a draw knife, you could take a lot off really quick. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this. Now, I've been fiddling around with more of an oval-shaped octagon on these pegs, and I tell you what, I was impressed how well they bite, and they bite really well, and I like that. So that's about right there. The way I make my pegs, I want them to just barely fit in there. I don't want them to be splitting out the piece it's going into. I just want it to barely fit in. I don't want to have to drive them. Of course, you can see what end I'm going to use for the pointed end. This one with a friggin' knot on it. Just a little tiny knot, but they could be a real pain in the ass. See, when I drive this all the way through, that knot will be out to the outside of it. But you see how I got a goofy grain swirl around it? But that'll end up getting cut off when I go to trim this on the outside of the building. There we go, get rid of that one spot. Didn't like that either. Now if you guys are draw boring, make sure that you taper these pegs. Because the idea of draw boring, if you want to go back later on and drive that peg in a little deeper, you want to flare that peg so as you drive it deeper it engages more and it pulls the joint together tighter. Like I said, you can tell which end's going to get the point on it. And other than that little knot there, this is a pretty decent piece of peg stock. But this is fine. It's not like you need a pencil point on these. You know, if you just get it down to where you basically want it so the end of this peg isn't catching on the edge of your hole when you're trying to drive it through, especially when you're lining into other pieces. Now the reason a hand-riven peg is better than one cut on the table saw is that you're actually shaving with the grain, just like anything else. You know, you look at your old colonial furniture, stuff like that. When they make those old Windsor chairs, they shave everything down with the grain. They're split by hand, and then they shave them down. There I've got a peg, and like I said, that's going to go right there. I don't get super fussy with these. Some people get super fussy with them. I don't. I mean, I could stand to take a little bit more here and there. That goes down in the hole all right. It's not too tight. No, we'll live with that, but maybe I'll take a little bit more off of this side. Alright guys, so a couple different methods of making pegs. Quickest way is still the table saw, but probably if you're a traditionalist, like a lot of guys out there, you're going to want to hand ride them. It's a lot slower to do it that way, but they make really good pegs. But like I said, just remember, don't bite in too much with that draw knife. You see a couple spots where I had crap grain in some of them to where they it bit in pretty good on its own, even with the bevel down, but not a big deal. Those I'll just set aside and they'll go in the wood stove. Not a big deal at all. But the pegs are real important. I can't stress that enough. They are holding this structure together. But anyhow, I think we're doing pretty well. We got a lot cleaned up tonight. I'll show you guys a little more. We got the last top plate on this eastern wall. I could start milling the logs I got home. We got to debark them and all that good stuff. Usually I like to do it the first day they're home, but it poured nasty yesterday. The weather was nasty up here yesterday. That wind was just, whew, that was rough. But shoot, we got a little bit of ice forming in the puddles tonight. That means I better hurry my ass up and get this thing together. But that's all right. I'll work in the cold. I do it all day at work anyway. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good evening. I will catch you on the next one.